We're joined now a couple minutes early by the driver of the number 88 Exalta Chevrolet, Dale Earnhardt Jr. You're making your 600 start in the NASCAR Monster Energy Series this weekend. Talk a little bit about that and then your expectations heading into the weekend.
Yeah, 600 just doesn't seem like a lot till you kind of look at the statistics on paper. Been reading some of the things on social media about how many starts we have versus other drivers in the series and so forth. So pretty cool. I go back to the same feeling that I had when I started. I just wanted to drive. I wanted to race cars for a living. I wanted to do it well enough to be able to afford to make a living doing it. I didn't have vision or assume that I was going to make all the money and success that we've made, but all I really wanted to do was do it long enough so I didn't have to get a real job. I mean that in as sincere as I can. So I'm real thrilled that I've had the opportunity to stay around and drive for some really, really great teams, some really awesome owners. Worked with a lot of amazing crew chiefs and crew members. We've got a really great group of guys that we race with in this current situation. We're having so much fun at the racetrack and really enjoy working with Greg. So I feel fortunate and lucky and hope to have good success this weekend. I really like Fontana, and I wish that we can have a good weekend is all. We're kind of been struggling a little bit to put together a good race this year, and we qualified well last week but didn't run as well as we wanted to. We had a little issue with the brakes and stuff like that, but those things are going to happen. We'll keep processing what we're learning and keep showing up every week and put it together eventually. But I really, really like this racetrack. Obviously, you're running all over the racetrack, a lot of different grooves. That makes it a lot of fun as a driver. So looking forward to some fun this weekend and hopefully a good result.
We'll open it up to questions. Now we'll start here with Kelly and then go to Claire and Bob.
Kelly Crandall, Racer.com. Dale, 600 starts. First, what are some things that you like to think about maybe from your career, maybe some fun things you like to talk about with your buddies? And second, when you meet fans, what do they normally like to come up and say? Do they say, hey, I remember this, or I met you here?
Yeah, they talk about wins. I was at Daytona when you won in 04. I was at Daytona when you won in 14. I was at the All-Star race when you won, or I've watched every race you ran. You hear really, they remember the moments on the track more than anything. And I do the same thing. I think back about the wins and maybe not even the wins. Some races are really fun and satisfactory, but you were the only one that remember them because you didn't, you ran third or fifth or something like that, and they're kind of obscure in most people's minds. But I think about running the All-Star race as a rookie, just how fortunate we were to do that. Winning the Daytona 500 twice. I didn't know that I would even win it once, and everything that's happened, the list goes on and on. So just been I can't, I would have never thought it would have been as good as it's been or as fun as it's been along the way, and made so many good friends. I think about when, as you get older, you start to understand how you prioritize the things that are most important to you about the sport, and the camaraderie and the friendships that I've made kind of started down the list, and as I've gotten older, that's crept up the list, and if it's not number one, I don't know what is. So it's all the people in the garage, the industry, the press, the friends that you make. That probably is what you'll miss the most once you're done driving, is the people. You're going to miss being around all those folks. Driving cars and the adrenaline and all that is great and a lot of fun. But, man, the friends that you make here, that's something we talk about too. It's just the people we all have in common friendships with.
We're going to go to Claire and then Bob, work our way around this way.
Claire Belang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. It's fun to follow you on Twitter and on your podcast and kind of get your opinion, and you've been real free with that, and it's good to follow. I'd love to have a discussion here about your view on penalizing or not penalizing on the track. Drivers, should they settle it for themselves out on the racetrack, and some of your ideas?
Yeah. Okay. I don't like, I'm going to be a bit of a hypocrite because I've done a lot of these things. I don't think, taking your car and running into somebody is the way to go. In between the flags, I guess it's okay. If you dump a guy for a win, that's just it's your choice. And I think in that situation, you just you get handled by the court of public opinion, and otherwise, everything in between the flags is free game. But once the race is over, you'd prefer not to have any shenanigans going on. But I myself have been guilty of that in the past. It's not, and I don't, if it's going to happen down the road, and that's not, I don't think we need to go out of our way to penalize Austin to send a message to him or anyone else. But to do nothing kind of bothered me a little bit. To do nothing at all, I'm serious. I would have sent him on a winter circle appearance somewhere. None of the drivers like doing those, and we complain about it to NASCAR all the time, having to go to these tracks out of market and do these appearances. Now, when we go do them, we do have fun, but drivers are spoiled, and we don't like to do that stuff. So I would sign him up for an out-of-market appearance to promote the next Phoenix race in the fall. And I'd get him, that the children's NASCAR Children's Charity can never have enough donations, so he could write a small check to them and be done with it. It doesn't really have to be anything that's harmful really to Austin. It's that what message do you send to all these guys that are racing at all the local tracks around the country? Are you sending the message that it's okay for them to drive into each other's door after the race is over with? So that's all I worry about. I'm not worried. I know Austin knows right from wrong. It's not about trying to teach him a lesson. It's really, what are we trying to tell everyone else, all the other drivers? And I know NASCAR takes these guys into the haulers, and they do have these conversations with them, and they do tell them what they expect in the future, but no one else is privy to that conversation. Not that I need to be in that conversation, but that's not sending the message to anyone because we don't know what the message is, right? So I just wish that, we don't want, I got guys racing late models. I got this young kid, and I got Josh, and we've ran cars in all kinds of different series, trucks and all that stuff, and you just want those guys to know kind of what the etiquette is out there. Whether they choose to follow it is another thing, but it's up to NASCAR to show them what is expected, and I think that the ball was kind of dropped on this particular situation. So that's kind of how I feel about it. I really, I've talked to Austin a lot this week. Talked to him last night, for a matter of fact. I talked to O'Donnell a little bit. And I understand that they want personalities. They want guys to be colorful. I agree with that. I think we have been. You listen to the Radioactive. I mean, we all talk crap about each other all race long. We just as annoyed as can be over everything going on around us and all. Like Blaney. I mean, we and him are pretty good friends, and we just annoyed as hell at each other sometimes on the track. So there's plenty going on out there. I don't think that would deter drama and any color in the sport. I think to do nothing is just such a missed opportunity, I think, and you don't have to do anything crazy. Just a couple $1,000s and just something just enough to say to these guys that are watching on Sunday that race on Saturday night and Friday night that this is not really what we want to see going forward. That's all.
When should they settle it amongst themselves on the track?
In between the flags, man. Yeah, when they, if he wants to, now you got, and I was one that, and so people were going to say, well, the Matt Kenseth deal was in between the flags. That was during the race. And I agree with NASCAR that you have to handle things differently. I wasn't quite sure about that, so I went and talked to O'Donnell, and he explained to me, like in other sports, there's flagrant fouls, and there's intentional fouls, and there's little 5-yard penalties and 15-yard penalties. There's holding and face mask calls. So I understand the variance and there needing to be a different degree of punishment for sure. And it's up to NASCAR to have the understanding to know how to manage those punishments and how to judge what needs to be done in those situations. So, but anything in between the flags is fair game. I mean, that's always been the case everywhere I've ever raced. You don't always like it. Some guy's gonna race dirty all the time. There's dirty players in football. There's dirty guys in boxing that are going to hit you behind the head and rabbit punch you and hit you in the clinch. I mean, there's just people that are like that, and that's okay as long as it's in between the flags.
We'll go to Bob and then Wolfgang.
Bob Pocker, ESPN. Before season start, you said you'd take a couple of months to decide when you'd start negotiating with Rick. Have you started that process? Have you felt good enough to start that process, and has it started?
It's all been a few races, but I feel really good. And we have had some discussions about planning to get together, so it's not something I put on the shelf for sure. So we're getting closer and closer. I feel good and made some good adjustments in my car in the off season. I had some meetings with NASCAR safety about things I could do better for myself and make my car safer. I'm mad that I didn't think about doing that sooner, but I just, it takes something to to make you proactive. It seems sometimes you got to get a kick in the butt to do something. But so I've done some things that I really think have gave me a lot of confidence in the car and in my ability to continue to race. And so, yeah, I'm not in any hurry to sit down and have those discussions, but we have been chit-chatting a little bit about when, that we need to go ahead and start heading in that direction.
We'll go to Wolfgang, then over to Kathy, and then back to Brant.
Wolfgang Monzer from German Ranchford Press Agency. Hi, Dale. I was told earlier in the press box, very exciting message that your team will have a very famous guest here on Sunday, Jenson Button, the ex-Formula One McLaren driver.
That's news to me.
Yeah. I just want to ask if you
Is he going to sit on the pit box? Because Ray Hall's coming too.
Okay.
I ain't got but so many seats.
Now, I just want to know, when you have a chance to talk to Button, will you convince him to make the move to NASCAR?
I assume everybody wants to move to NASCAR, right? I don't think I'd have to convince him. There's only a few opportunities out there, and sponsor money is hard to find. So anybody wanting to drive in the Cup Series is going to have to find $20-30 million to do it. We could daydream all day long. I would have loved to have seen, what Michael Schumacher would have thought about our cars, and so it would have been awesome if he had the opportunity to drive a stock car, just so he could, just to hear what his thoughts were, being the legend that he is. Anytime the F1 guys, or anybody for that matter, the IndyCar guys, it's such a different discipline driving F1 to stock cars. Anytime they get in our sport, it's great to hear their take on it and what they really think about it. So any of the guys want to come, get an opportunity to run some laps, it'd be fun to hear what they have to say. Our car, yes, and did it successfully. We miss him. He was a lot of fun to have around. Me and him, boy, the fun we had at Driver's Intro. Hanging out with all my besties at Driver Intro. No one. That was a dig at Letarte. I miss seeing Montoya, man. He was always nice to me and always was an approachable guy.
Kathy Brown, pitting outside the box. Congratulations on making your 600th start. If you could go back in time to your very first race, what would be the one thing that Dale Jr. now would tell Dale Jr. then?
Oh, well, my first Cup race, we ran, I would, I don't know, I was really nervous. I remember sitting on the starting grid, or sitting on in the qualifying for the race, and telling Tony Jr. that I'd switch with him for $1 million. I'd switch with him so he could do this instead of me, because I was scared to death. But they had made such a big deal about that whole thing. I mean, I don't even remember what they had some kind of they called it something, countdown to E-Day or some mess. I forget what it was, but Budweiser made this big promotion about it, and it was so much pressure, and I was so nervous. We did okay in the race. I think we finished 16th or something like that. But I don't, I was overwhelmed with the weight of the situation and how much attention it was getting, and it made it really hard to kind of soak in and enjoy, I guess. But we just wanted to do so good and not fail, and I don't know what I could tell myself that would have made much of a difference in how I felt. I don't think I could have calmed myself any more than with any kind of advice. It'd have been difficult to make any difference. I guess it was so crazy, but it was fun. It was a wild time.
Let's go to Holly, then Brant, then we'll come up front here.
Hey Dale, Holly Kane with NASCAR.com. I just wanted to ask you a little bit about stage racing, what you think of it, how involved you get into that whole thing, your thoughts on it.
Well, so far my experience has been I've been sort of in the backside of the top 10 for a few of these stages, and the intensity really ramps up when your crew chief or your spotters like, I may got like 15 laps to go in this stage. You're like, oh man, I got to hang on to this 1 point. And you really get nervous. You're sitting there riding along, thinking about your car, having fun, driving along, and then they tell you that, and you're thinking, man, I don't want to give up this point. All of a sudden, for whatever reason, this 1 point is so valuable. So that's good. I think that was their intent, to really get the drivers up on their toes, and it definitely has us on our toes as those laps wind down toward the end of each of those stages. On the other side of that, when you're 15th, 18th, and the stage is winding down, you're maybe not as intense as I had been in the past at that particular part of the race. Yeah, you're kind of like, well, the stage wrapping up, we're getting ready to wrap this up, we're going to start a new stage, okay. And you're just chilling, till that gets done. Without, as long as you don't have any visual opportunity to try to get a point, it kind of makes you, reel it in a little bit and save a little bit, maybe get ready for that next stage and start thinking about, all right, how can we actually put ourselves in position to get some points here for that next opportunity? And so it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting. It's I don't know exactly what their intent was and what they're trying to accomplish, but it does bring in some intensity that wasn't there in the past. Especially if you're kind of in that 8th, 9th, 10th spot, coming down those last few laps, you're like, man, I want to give up any points. I really want these points. And that was never the case before. We never had points to race for, so we just kind of were, not cruising, but we're just kind of getting through the day, hoping to be there at the end to get the points. And now we're having to worry about points throughout the day.
We'll go to Brant, then up front here.
Brant James, USA Today Sports. There had been some reporting this week that if restrictor plates could be coming to the Brickyard 400 if it works well in the Xfinity race as a standout in that form, how do you think it would play there?
I don't know how it's going to look or work out, but I'm up for whatever. That race is really suffering as far as the show and how entertaining I think it is to watch. I don't really know what the answer is to make it more exciting, but this is a great opportunity to find out if this is a direction to go. And I think I'm all for it. And I like the idea of trying it in the Xfinity Series or the Truck Series or what have you, whatever track it's at. To try it in that feeder series. That's an opportunity to see if we can get it right without ruining anything for the Cup guys. Hopefully, I think NASCAR watches the Indy 500 and they see those guys drafting and passing, and they have to, they're competitive and they have to try to put on that type of show, if not better, at that racetrack. It's not good in conversation to have the IndyCar race be more exciting to watch than the NASCAR race there. That's just business. So I think it's great for them to be aggressive. We tried something last year in the Cup cars with the big spoilers and all that drag. Didn't work, but I think it's I'm good with it. I really think it's easy to say, hey man, let's go back to IRP for the Xfinity guys. Well, how do you fix a Cup race? You want to fix a Cup race too. You want to try to improve Cup racing there if you can. We'd love to keep Indy or the Xfinity at Indy if we can, if we can make that exciting, that's where they belong. It's great for our company. It's great for us as owners to have that big marquee event. And it's a race that's easier to sell than maybe a Road America or something like that. So for sponsors, it's a big deal. So we want to be there. I would love to race at IRP. I'd love to see a race at IRP, but it's good for our owners to be in Indy. And if we can make that work, that's great. So I'm open to trying anything.
Are there other Cup tracks where plates would be worth a try?
That's a good question. You know, I think it's a good question. I don't know that that'd be popular at every other track, but since Indy's kind of a odd configuration and the racing has suffered there, I think that it's worth an attempt to see if it'll be an improvement. I don't think that we have a race that kind of stands out as an issue like Indy does as far as the show and how entertaining the race is. And I think, you know, if you looked at other tracks, you know, Michigan and those things come to mind, but the racing there is good, and it's going to just keep getting better as the track ages. It's the configuration is really a thorn in the side of Indy for our cars. You know, there's not ever going to be a second groove for us there. I mean, the Indy cars really don't run through the corners side by side on a regular basis, but the way their cars work aerodynamically, they're able to draft and pass, and it's a great show. It's a really great show. So we need to figure out how to make that happen for our cars. The straightaways are long enough. We just got to figure out how to get our cars to where we can really get the slingshot runs. And I think what they learn in that process, if they can accomplish that, would lend itself to other racetracks, especially at Daytona and Talladega, man. If we could bring a slingshot back to where one guy can pull out and pass someone on their own, what a race that would be. You know, we used to, you know, you had quite a bit of that in the 80s where guys were just flying by each other every time they went down the back straightaway. Somebody else was taking the lead. It'd be awesome to have that again.
We'll go right up front to finish up.
Okay, Presto Cars and Competition. Dale, you went from a really hot track at Phoenix last week. That's a road course to the 2-mile oval here. Very wide here, lots of seams here. How do you anticipate you'll do the stage racing on this track?
I don't think that the stages are going to dictate a different strategy than we've had here in the past. The tires are going to be so critical. You're going to get 4 tires every opportunity you can. So when the caution comes out, you know, you're not going to have guys trying to trick the system with the new stages. You'll want to come down and get your tires and take advantage of, you know, having new tires every opportunity. Yeah, it's nice that the temperature is going to be more tolerable this weekend. Last week was pretty hot, but you know, we made the most of it, and it wasn't too bad. I felt great after the race.
And the tire performance here, do you think?
I love it. I mean, it's a rough, really rough. Like, it's got a lot more bumps than it's had in the past. Wore out surface. The tires fall off. That's what the drivers love. I think the drivers are really looking forward to this race.
Dale, good luck this weekend.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.